Hey YouTube, what's going on? This channel is called There Has to Be Something More. I'm your humble host, Scott Moore. Welcome back, or welcome. Today we are talking to you from Xela, Guatemala. And we've been here, losing track of the days, almost a week now, I guess. And absolutely love it here. I don't know that we could like it anymore. But I did promise you all that I would do before leaving Nicaragua, we did a things we like about Nicaragua and things we love about Nicaragua, and there was plenty of those. If you haven't seen that video, please check that one out. But today we're going to do the things that we do not like about Nicaragua. So as many of you know, my wife Lydia and I, we are traveling around between Mexico and Argentina for the next 4 or 5 years. We are in search of our favorite retirement city. We are showing that you can do that at a very low cost. You do not have to wait and retire when you're so old that all you can do is sit around and watch TV. Maybe we can inspire you to get out a little bit early. But today's topic it's kind of tough because we do love a lot of things about Nicaragua, but there are things that we don't like. I'm going to go ahead and get into these in no particular order. Eventually, we are gonna let you all know, like, hey, this country that we just spent 6 months in or a year in, this is still on the list of possibilities of where we may retire, or this one is not. And we're just gonna be very honest with you and let you know, these again are our opinions. A country that is just perfect for us may or may not be right for you. But just kind of give you some things to think about, just our own personal opinion, our 2 cents on several things. So getting right into it, things that we do not like about Nicaragua in no particular order. Number 1, litter and garbage. If there was one thing where I could just snap my fingers and change about Nicaragua, it would be getting rid of all the litter and garbage. I think it would be, I think it could be a real game changer for Nicaragua, because one of the things that tourists see when they come in now, the tourists are mostly going to San Juan del Sur or they're going to Granada. I did not go to those 2 places. Lydia and I kind of shy away from places where there's a tremendous amount of tourists. We'll go to a few, but we've been to Granada before. But there is, as you travel around Nicaragua, and Matagalpa is no exception, there's some areas that you just think, gosh, this place, like there's a river that runs through Matagalpa, and you think, man, if this was somewhere else, they would have little benches, they'd have, food trucks. This would be like one of the places that everybody wanted to go, and instead, it's just this, what could be a beautiful little river that's full of garbage. So that's kind of unappealing. Next, men peeing everywhere. It's common. I mean, like, we didn't see it every day, but I bet on average we probably saw it every other day, where in residential areas or downtown, if a guy has to pee, he'll just kind of find a corner somewhere and turn around and start urinating. And that's in residential neighborhoods also. I mean, if you've got like a lot or any place where they can just turn around and go to the bathroom, they will do it. So, as unappealing as that is, it's especially unappealing like if there's children around. So didn't care for that too much. And some of these you're going to say, oh, that's kind of silly that you even mentioned it. But the next one was spitting. And as you're walking around downtown, you will see people that just spit. And I don't know, it's just kind of a weird thing for me. They will do the spitting, and they will also do an occasional Italian handkerchief where they're just going to cover up one nostril and blow some boogers out of the other one. So those are a couple things that you will see as well. Noise. Nicaragua is really noisy. And I don't know if I don't think it's just Matagalpa, but I can tell you for sure Matagalpa is noisy. And I mean super loud motorcycles. I don't know if they adjust the mufflers just for the purpose of them being loud. Roosters, dogs barking. They have cars that drive around with these giant speakers on it that do like advertising and announcing. Neighbors will gather right next to your house and talk and, loudly and joke around and have, it's just, everything is noisy. If you like the quiet, it might not be the place for you. I think you can probably escape that if you go out a little bit farther. And by choice, we wanted to be close to downtown. We like walking around. We love the walkability, which is a great thing about Matagalpa. I mean, you can literally just walk everywhere. But it is noisy. If you go out 15, 20 minutes, I would guess that you'd probably have a much more quiet experience. Next one is the drop-in culture. How do I describe this? This is like, like in the US, if you have no people or friends, family, they're usually going to shoot you over a text. Hey, I'm close to your house. I was going to swing by in half an hour. We just wanted to see if you were home and available or something like that. Or they'll call you real quick. In Nicaragua, they just show up and you just get a knock on your door, or you'll hear, if you've got your windows open or your doors open, you'll hear, buenas, buenas. Well, that's somebody that's, coming to visit. And so, some parts of that are very nice, but there's other parts where like, gee, this is really, really not a convenient time. So there's definitely a drop-in culture. The next one would be treatment of animals. Now, the one that you're going to see the most are the street dogs. And they are so pitiful and so sad, especially when you see the ones that look like walking skeletons. And they're just all over the place. There's no spay and neuter, anything, so they're just pumping out puppies all the time. You constantly see dogs that are, laying around, sitting around outside of any place where there's ever food. So like restaurants and things like that, you're going to see a street dog or two sitting out there hoping to get a bite of something. Lydia's stopped many times where, there's just a dog that's just sitting there staring at all the people in the restaurant. Lydia would go in and buy like a rotisserie chicken and sit there and feed the dog in front of everybody just to make sure that they could see her, that, hey, you can stop and feed these dogs. Because they don't get fed, really. I mean, there's not anybody usually tossing them a bite or two. But it's all the animals. The street dogs are just kind of what's in your face all the time. But you'll see neglected animals everywhere. Now, some, like when you see I can't think of the name of it, but when they have the big celebration that involves all the horses, it's beautiful. The horses are obviously well taken care of. But the other horses and donkeys and cows and everything else, you'll see a lot of those that look like skeletons as well. So they're getting no veterinary care, very little food, a lot of times very little water. So that's a real tough one. And you're gonna see that in a lot of countries, I'm sure. Gringo pricing. We're fortunate because if there's something, if it's little tiny stuff, if it's a taxi ride or some vegetables or something like that, I mean, getting the gringo price where you're going to get a little bit higher price just because you're obviously not a local, it might cost you 10 cents extra, a quarter extra. It's not a big deal. For big purchases, we would always have Lydia go in and I would either stay home or hide outside or somewhere where they didn't see me until the price was negotiated. So gringo pricing is one thing to think about. For the most part, it's really not a big deal. It's a dime here and a quarter there. Dental and healthcare. A little mixed here. We went to a place called Clinica Santa Fe. We had a good doctor that we liked. And he did house calls very inexpensively, so he came to the house several times. I got an ultrasound there. I was having some problems with my hip flexor. Just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like actually something in the hip, like arthritis or something like that. So went in, he checked me out. First they said, oh, maybe it's a hernia. And it turns out I've just got some kind of bad hip flexor and I need to see a physical therapist. So that was good. And he was very helpful on several occasions. Dental, Lydia and I both had a couple issues with. Lydia she has implants on both sides, but was going to do the crowns when we got to Nicaragua. So we just kind of ran out of time before we left the US. But the implants were in, those posts that they put in there, she's ready to get the teeth on there, the crowns. And she had them put in Chinandega on one side, and a couple months later they just disintegrated, just fell out, and the dentist would do nothing about it. And this was a family dentist, a dentist that Lydia's entire family in Corinto went to for years. So that was very disappointing. We're still working on that. Lydia decided to wait till we got here to Shayla before she went somewhere else, because I went in for a cleaning. At least in the US, from what I remember, with the cleaning would start with the little hook thing, and they'd scrape off all the tartar, and they'd come back in after that and kind of do it was like a drill thing, but it was a polisher. So very kind of soft, and they had some like kind of real gritty toothpaste kind of stuff that they polished up your teeth with. Well, when I went in for the cleaning, instead of starting with the little hook thing that they just scrape the tartar off with, they used the drill thing, but instead of having the polisher, it had something tougher on there. And I mean, they're going through there, taking the tartar off, and I'm sitting there thinking, holy cow, I hope they're not like stripping all the enamel off my teeth or something. And so, talking to an expat friend of ours, you can tell them that you want the little hook scraper thing and not that. So if I was going to go back, I would have a talk with the dentist before they started cleaning my teeth and say, I don't want that thing to take the tartar off, that drill kind of thing. Just our thoughts. So healthcare we thought was okay. If you do it privately, whether you pay out of pocket or you have insurance, that's up to you. We paid out of pocket. Everything was very inexpensive. And then dental, I don't know, that's a tough call because we just did not have good experiences with dental. Maybe it was just the two places that we went. Heat and humidity. Out of all these, this is probably the one thing that would be the deal breaker for us. We were hoping that at somewhere around 2,200 feet in elevation, it would be cool enough for us. I've been to Corinto several times. It's just unbelievably hot. So we were hoping, okay, we're going to go up in the mountains, check out one of the cooler places. Maybe it's cool enough and we can, retire in Nicaragua, be close to Lydia's family, all that. It is not. So, whether that might change as we get older and we like warmer climates better when we get older, I don't know. But at least for now, it is definitely not cool enough for us. In Matagalpa, you give up a lot of conveniences. I mean, there's no Walmart, there's no mall, there's no movie theater, there's no, anything like that. So it's for somewhere between 100 and 200,000 people. I mean, there's plenty to do and see, but there's like food products that you can't get. As a vegan, I used to love a lot of stuff that's probably not very good for you, the processed vegan burgers and vegan chicken nuggets and vegan cheese and all that. That may have been one of the reasons why I dropped weight living there. But there's a lot of stuff like that you can't get. There was only one place I could find where you could buy tofu, and that was homemade. Like the supermarkets don't carry anything like that. You do see, as one more thing, you do see in-your-face poverty. I mean, when you're driving from Managua, you fly in, land in Managua, and then you drive out to Matagalpa. Like most places around, if you're driving around Nicaragua, you are going to see some absolute poverty. And this isn't poverty like you see in the US where, our poor people have a car and air conditioning and a flat panel TV. This is like dirt floor, metal tin roof. This is real poverty. And it's very sad. It's hard to see. Um, I guess the last one that I would mention, and the elephant in the room, would be the government. It's not my country, which is what we used to, we would tell, friends or family or anybody there in Nicaragua, it's your country, it's not my country. We don't make those decisions. Especially since we've been here in Guatemala, because we were expecting roughly the same thing, the same kind of things to be here in Guatemala that we saw in Nicaragua, and it's not. I mean, there's so much more money here. It's so much more prosperous. And you just wonder if there was just a few tweaks, if there was, a more democratic government maybe, because Nicaragua is such a beautiful place. So, you do kind of wonder. Now, hypothetically speaking, if I had ever been to Cuba many years ago, I would tell you that it's not like that. So, people don't run around just terrified. Cuba is a whole different thing. I mean, it's really bad. But Nicaragua, you do kind of wonder, if there was a different system in place, what it might be like. I think at this point the only country in the Western Hemisphere that has worse poverty is Haiti. I'm not sure. I think Nicaragua's number 2. But again, that government's not my responsibility. I didn't feel any stress or safety issues or anything like that about anything like that. Walking around, the police were always nice and polite, and so I never felt any bad things about it. You just do kind of wonder, man, if Nicaragua was ever, had an economic system that was a little bit more viable, what they may be able to do. I did this, and this would have been a completely different video had I done it a week or 10 days ago. Because we really were expecting in Guatemala something very similar. But it's not. I keep asking Lydia to give me a 1 to 10. Both of us are probably maybe like a 5 or 6 on Nicaragua. If the weather was cooler, honey, give me a 1 to 10 on Matagalpa if the weather's cooler. 8, 7 or 8. So got a 7 or 8 on Nicaragua if the weather was cooler. Like if it was like this temperature here in Shayla, where every day the high is like 68, 69, the lows in the 40s. I mean, it is fantastic. So 1 to 10 on Shayla.
10.
Shayla gets a 10. So we want to be honest with you guys. What we like and don't like may or may not be the same for you. But we will not be going back to Nicaragua. Not to live. It will not be, Nicaragua will not be our permanent retirement spot. So it's just one that we've checked off the list. Leaving there last week, I would have said it would have been possible. I would have said, yes, it's still on the list. If we get older and start liking warmer weather, like a lot of retirees do in the U.S. After seeing Guatemala, it's a no. Nicaragua is off the list. We would pick, and we still have a lot of places to go, but we would pick Guatemala for sure over Nicaragua. That's about all I have today. I know that this ran a little long, but I wanted to give you a comparison, wanted to kind of do a final review on Nicaragua. I really appreciate you all tuning in. Please take a second to like and subscribe. It really helps us. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. Would love to hear your opinions about, Nicaragua or Guatemala. Thank you so much. If you are trying to figure out when you can retire, how you can retire, can you get out a little early? If you were like us, where the thought of being, on your front porch in a rocking chair somewhere or just watching TV for the last quarter of your life, if that sounds extremely boring and you need an adventure, just remember there has to be something more.